David Baker has a farming background. He was brought up on the family farm in Cloughjordan, County Tipperary. Despite this, though, it was never a foregone conclusion that he would become a farmer. In fact, it wasn't until his late teens that he actually decided to give farming a try.
I wasn't always interested in farming. It was really only when I was about coming home from school holidays, really when I was about 15 or 16, I began to get interested. And then my last year in school, I decided to go to Cloughjordan Agricultural College for a year with no positive. I didn't really know what I was going to do after that. So I did that, and then with a few others I headed off to New Zealand, farming out there.
David was only 18 when he went to the Southern Hemisphere to work on dairy farms in Australia and New Zealand. He was to spend 2 years there, gaining experience and learning of the differences between dairy farming in Ireland and New Zealand.
The main thing is the climate. They have a much more suitable climate for farming. They get more extremes. I think that in the summer they dry up a lot more, but generally they have there's a very good grass-growing country, and really, and I suppose their big advantage is they never have to house their cattle in the winter. They really only have about 5 weeks or 6 weeks of a wet spell, and they usually have enough grass to carry them over that spell. So I suppose that's the main difference, really, and it's just an easier way of life.
It may have been an easier way of life, but David returned after 2 years to work on the family farm. He spent another 2 years at this. However, he says it became obvious that there wasn't enough work on the farm for his father, his brother and himself, and so David moved again. Not quite so far this time, though, just to a neighbouring farm, to manage the dairy herd. However, his employer wasn't keen on staying in dairy farming.
Well, I hadn't a huge choice, really. It was either do that or else, go and look for another job, which wouldn't have been easy at the time either. So I decided, after a lot of negotiating and making up my own mind, I decided to go ahead and try and raise the money and buy the herd and lease the land.
Now, it was a big step to take. You were 23 at the time. It took £40,000 to do it. Difficult, really, at that age. At any age.
Yeah, it was difficult. I think I had the attitude at the time that I didn't know where to go, and I suppose when I studied it, I said that I was young enough probably to take a risk, and even if it wasn't going to work after 3 or 4 years, I could maybe sell my livestock and maybe even cover myself and get out without losing too much. But as it's turned out, it's worked out really well, and it's going to be a success now. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, it is anyway.
At 23 years of age, David took on debts of £40,000. He rented a house to live in and leased 85 adjusted acres for a herd of 50 cattle. Now, just over 2 years later, there are 74 cows in the herd and 32 followers, 12 2-year-old and 20 1-year-old heifers. His immediate plan is to increase the milk yield per cow. As for the future, he's now just 4 years to run on his 6-year lease. But he says that's not a major worry.
I think a lot of other people worry about it more than I do. I think, I own all my stock at that stage, which probably be total over 100 anyway, livestock altogether. And I think I can move on to another farm, or maybe possibly get an extension of my lease here. And who knows, maybe within 10 years I might be able to afford to buy my own farm. But I'm not actually worried about it. I think that even the possibilities are there to continue leasing on someone else's farm, even if the lease doesn't carry on here.
At the start, David got some help from his father in the form of 7 heifers. This, he says, may have made the difference between success and failure. But that was all the help he got. He had to raise all of the money he needed himself, and he didn't get a penny of grant aid.
The installation scheme was scrapped in the last budget, and that didn't help my cause, or any young farmer's cause, I think. I think it was a tragedy, really. The idea was very good.
So you obviously would be in favour of some form of start-up grant for young farmers.
Well, I think there's an awful lot of qualified young, highly trained young farmers in the country, and they're in a position that they're either working on farms with no huge future and no great initiative. Nothing really that entices them to keep farming there. I think that something needs to be done to help other young farmers into, say, similar situation to mine.
If he hadn't taken the risk, David Baker would be working for somebody else now, perhaps back in New Zealand, maybe not even in farming. As far as he's concerned, the opportunity exists for hundreds of other young farmers to travel the same road. He reckons farms would be made available for leasing, provided the owners could be guaranteed they wouldn't lose their land to the leasee.
It's based on the New Zealand share milking idea, and it works there, and everyone said to me when I came home that it'll never work here, but it can work. And just say, for example, a farmer with maybe who's 65 years of age and no sons to carry on his business, could possibly keep his land and even keep his livestock or his cows. I'm talking about dairy farming in this instance. Keep his cows and maybe just lease the whole lot out to a young farmer and have it on that basis. In that way, then he's not selling off all his assets, and he's keeping involved himself as well, maybe some way.
And it's a break for the young farmer too.
Exactly, yeah.
When we filmed this interview, David knew that he had won the Munster provincial title, and he was in the running with two others for the Star Young Farmer Award. He didn't know he'd actually won the national title, but naturally he was hopeful.
The other two finalists are, as far as I'm concerned, excellent farmers as well, with three different types of farmers, but I'd love to win it. I mean, it'd be a nice boost, and it'd be a tremendous boost after, because it hasn't been that easy in the last 2 years, and I think something like this would be give me tremendous confidence.